For this next part, we're going to make a drawing that I consider the long, skinny class of parts. This part will have numerous issues that we need to overcome with drafting techniques. Let's start off by creating a drawing, as we always do. I'm going to change the sheet scale to 1:1. So first off, notice that the views are much larger than the paper. In fact, the part is much longer than the paper. And we have these large regions where really nothing's happening on the part. It's just a straight shaft. So I'm going to get rid of this isometric, make things a little easier. I'm going to get rid of the top view. And I'm going to get rid of, oops, bad pick. I'll undo that. I can also do my picking over here in the drawing manager. So I'm going to choose view 31. Much better. So I could do a couple of things. I could change the scale of this view to make it fit on the paper. I'll use a custom scale and let's bring it down to something like that. That's a little small. 1/8. And that just barely fits. So if I want a custom scale, I'll go up to user defined. I could make it 1/5 scale. That's not bad. But notice the problem. There's actually two problems. Okay. My keyways become very, very small, and it's hard to see it, hard to detail it on the print. But also, there's no view that I can create that will allow me to detail the depth of the keyway without dimensioning to a hidden line, which is a huge no-no. We don't ever want to do that. So first off, because there's nothing going on between the keyways, we can make it what's called a broken view and just eliminate that from the view. So I'm going to say insert, drawing view, and break. I'll choose the view to put the break in. And I have one squiggly line, two squiggly lines. Those are your actual break symbols. And all it does is eliminate from the view the region where nothing's going on. Now, I can change the scale of my view. Let's say I change it to half scale. That's a lot easier to work with. Okay. And I can create projected views off that. Okay. But I still haven't solved the problem of being able to dimension to that hidden line. So what would be nice is if we could take a saw, an imaginary saw, and just run it right down through the part so that we could look at the inside of the keyways. Well, we can do that. And we do it with something called a section view. So I'm going to delete this view for right now. And I'm going to say insert, drawing view, and then section. I'll choose the view that I want to put the section in. And I can do either vertical cuts like this, or I can do horizontal cuts. There are many ways to do this. We could have stepped cuts, all kinds of fancy stuff. But for the sake of this class, we're just going to do either horizontal or vertical straight through cuts. And I'm going to choose on the midline or the midpoint of one of these lines. And I'll say OK. Notice it drops in section CC. Well, there's no section A or B, so I need to change that section to A. Okay, now I can actually detail the depth of my keyways properly. So I'll go from the top. There's a proper keyway down. Down here on my keyways, I have to give a length from the end of the shaft. So I'm going to insert a center mark on each end. Out of that command, I'll smart dimension from the end. Notice what happens with dimensions. You get the same break. So even though the part appears shorter, it does not affect the actual dimensions that are called out. And the last thing I need is radius on the two keyways. Okay, so that's pretty nice. I have my keyways fully defined. I need to know what diameter rod I want the machinist to use. There's a couple ways I could do it. I could add another view, or alternately, I can just go across the width like that. Either is acceptable. Now I need to tell the machinist about these little snap ring grooves at the ends. If you're not familiar with it, this little groove accepts a little piece of spring steel and it keeps the shaft from moving axially. So when I'm fully zoomed out, those get pretty small. It might be nice to zoom in on those at a different scale and actually show the machinist close up what they're supposed to do on the ends. And we can do that. We do it with something called a detail view. So let's put one of those in. I'm going to say Insert, Drawing View, and Detail. And this is how you make small dimensions much larger and more visible. Okay, so it started detail D. Well, that's not correct. We were on A before when we created the section, so I'm going to call this B. It's much better. And I'm also going to do a width leader. Now I seem to be having a video issue where when I change it to width leader, it drags my letter way out. This is the way I like to see a detail view. So now we can smart dimension our detail view. I'll do the depth of my key slot, or excuse me, snap ring groove, the width. That's good. Whenever I have a shaft, I always want to make sure I put in a center line. There we go. And I have this chamfer on the end. So I need to call out how to do that chamfer. So I will choose the angled chamfer face and then one other reference face. So now the machinist knows for this end to do this detail. And if I want, I can put in a note. I'll say both ends. So now the machinist knows to put a snap ring groove of those dimensions on both ends of the shaft. So I need to tell the machinist what to make this out of. So I'm going to come up, put in a note section, and I'll say note 1, material, oops, I always put a colon, 1010 steel, always making sure that I have an AISI number. I'll get out of my notes command. I'll come down to the title block, make sure it's properly filled out. Here's my name, today's date is 10/21/18. Now notice that the drawn and date, scale, and sheet are the only ones I can change. This other information is being picked up from the model. So I'm going to double check my scale. I'm going to go with just the glass box views for the scale. I'll click on that. I used half scale, 1:2. I'll double click on it and change it. This is going to be a single sheet drawing. Sheet 1 of 1, and I'll say OK and end the command. Since I said it's going to be a single sheet, I will delete sheet 2, and there we go. So let's go back through and make sure that we have all the features we need on this print for our machinist. So the first thing we should have done is put the overall dimensions on. I have the diameter. I forgot the length. Let's put that on. So it's a 36-inch long shaft. Length and diameter, so the machinist knows what size piece of metal they have to use. I have the length of each keyway, and I have the starting origin of each keyway, so that's good. I have the depth of each keyway, that's good. I have my snap ring groove dimensioned. I've said both ends so that I know it's here and here. Okay, that's good. The only thing I should still probably have is a center line. And I will drop center line in. Notice I have not put any graphics under my revision block. So this area is all clear. So that's good. And now I can save it and move on to my next problem. Thank you for watching.